All right, time again. Are we live? I think we are. Hello, and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat. It's another episode of the Women's Transfer Show as we're here in the January transfer window. And we've got a lot to discuss today. A few done deals across the league. We've also got some very tasty rumours. So we're really getting into the heat of January. A load of announcements to start this week. A lot of rumours as we approach this first week of January, or as we approach the end, actually, of the first week of January, Harry. It's early in the transfer window, but a lot of teams are already getting their business out of the way.
Yeah, exactly that. I didn't really expect to see this much happen in 5 days of the window. Of course, we had a couple of transfers that were pre-agreed before the window started and have now been announced. But yeah, to see so many teams doing so much business in the last few days, it's been very surprising. Usually the panic and the rush and all the excitement is towards the end when you reach that deadline day and in that last week of the month of January. But yeah, these first few days of the window, a lot has happened up and down the league, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about coming into this one.
Absolutely, and well, let's kick off then, because normally we like to touch on the top teams. They haven't had a lot flow from the top teams thus far, not a lot in the way of the leading two. Chelsea, Manchester City haven't really done anything yet. We've not heard anything from, Manchester United, sorry, we've had two transfers, not heard anything though from Arsenal, though today they have signed a player and they have had a rumour. So let's kick off the show with Arsenal, the big breaking news of Smilla Holmberg joining. Let's start there then. Great addition for Arsenal. We spoke about this when it was sort of broke in November. It's taken them 2 months to actually announce the deal, but finally, Smilla Holmberg is an Arsenal player.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's a very, very good player for Arsenal, a huge boost to their ranks and another young talent that we expect to see coming into the WSL and thriving. But yeah, it's always kind of, it's coming this day. It's nice when you know that the deal is already agreed before the month, but when you get to that contract signing day and it gets announced to the fans, that's the big one. That's the one that everyone looks forward to. But yeah, Holmberg, a very, very good player. Not as much of a surprise because we knew it was going to happen, but a big boost to Arsenal. We know that Slagers has got very used to sticking with 111, but Holmberg should add to that depth, which will encourage more rotation. And it means when they do rotate, they don't have problems like they did last season when they lost to Villa and lost to Brighton because that squad quality wasn't good enough. Players like Holmberg are raising the floor of this Arsenal side, and yeah, a very big pickup and a good positive note to start the January for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think a lot of the discourse around Arsenal has been that this summer will be that big rebuild. This feels like a precursor to that. But I actually think when you look at the long term now for Arsenal, we're talking about players who are 21 and under, 20 and under. We're looking at Olivia Smith. We're looking at Michelle Adjemang. We're looking at Vivian Lear, if she can, sort of come through on her promise. We're looking at Katie Reid, Smilla Holmberg. That's a really good core of a team to sort of build around. Layla Harbour as well, just come back from her loan move, I believe. So we could see her involved in the second half of the season. So I think when you look at sort of the core that Arsenal are building, as we look towards perhaps a new start for Arsenal, it's still not confirmed, though I would very much expect it to be confirmed in the next few months, that Renee Slagers will be manager next season. Her contract is up in the summer, but I think in terms of what Arsenal are trying to build for the future, Holmberg fits exactly into that. And as you say, in the short term, fantastic backup option to Emily Fox. I don't think there's many better right backs she could be being tutored by. So I think in terms of someone who fits the same sort of mould, they both have little differences. I think Holmberg's a much better carrier of the ball, whereas Fox is great at passing. But I think that does give different options then for Renee Slagers, which again is important in the short term. So yeah, I think Holmberg's a great addition. I said it at the time when it was first sort of broke in the media in November that it is a really good signing for Arsenal. It's the kind of transfer that exactly what they need now to really, I think kick on is the word, but it's stupid because it's Arsenal Football Club. But we didn't really see them do enough in the summer to kick on from their Champions League win. But this is definitely one for the future. And I think that's exactly the sort of deals Arsenal need to be making with one eye on a very sort of a huge revolution in the summer. So, important one. There's not too much to say on it. I saw a lot of the discourse been positive. I haven't seen anyone complaining about it, other than Swedish fans, because all of the Swedish players have left to join the WSL. There's been 5 transfers so far already, I think, this window, where it's been a Swedish player joining the WSL. I think there may even be 6 now, with Julie Blackstad, as we'll get to at I think that's later in the show. But yeah, I think Smilla Holmberg, definitely a good signing for Arsenal. A few people to say hi to before we get into the Stanway rumour then. Emily, welcome to the stream. Lethal Chicken with a note on Stanway saying, I wouldn't be upset, but not 100% sold on it. 8 saying, I don't love the idea of Stanway, but it screams Arsenal, so what can I say? Welcome as well to Phil, Antonio, Michael, and Sophia Way. Michael with a slightly different opinion saying Stanway would be a great signing for Arsenal. So very interesting then to see the sort of difference in opinion amongst Arsenal fans. Where do you sit on Georgia Stanway? The situation is she's got 6 months left in her Bayern Munich contract. She is rumoured to be looking at a return to the WSL. Could Arsenal look at either a cut price deal in January or a pre-contract agreement for the summer? Either way, do you think Stanway to Arsenal makes sense? What are your thoughts?
I think it's very reasonable with Arsenal. I think I agree with whoever said there that it screams Arsenal Football Club. Absolutely does. It's it's an English player who's been involved with the national team. It will help. It will add to their number of lionesses that they've already got, and it's a signing that will get the fans off their seats, and and the fans will enjoy. It's exactly what we said about the signings we saw in the summer, and think about when Taylor Hines came in. Everyone loved that. It's that kind of player. Of course, Georgia Stanway is a brilliant, brilliant footballer. There's no doubting that. It's a question of whether Arsenal want and need her. Do they want her? Probably. I think a lot of teams would. Is she necessarily what they need right now? I think there's a good debate. Arsenal's biggest problem is that defensive midfield position. But if you're going to go out and get a defensive midfielder, I think the priority has got to be a defensive midfielder who is more defensively minded. And of course, Stanway can do a bit of both. But in my mind, Stanway is brilliant coming forwards, but Arsenal have got enough players that they're playing in defensive midfield that are really good going forwards. They need that defensive linchpin. They need that more natural number 6, and of course Stanway can do it. But I think if Arsenal are planning to bring in someone who's going to be that nailed on world class number 6, is Stanway that kind of player? I'm not sure. Of course, she's a brilliant player, and of course, she can have a big impact for the Gunners. And I think that the fact that it could be a bit of a cheaper deal or on a free is what is probably exciting Arsenal and is tipping that deal over the edge at the moment. But if it was to happen, I think obviously Arsenal fans would be mostly very happy. It would be a big boost because Stanway's a quality player. But I think it would be another signing where we sit there and go, yes, it would be a phenomenal player, but does it 100% fill the exact space that they've got in their squad right now? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think my argument would be that those two things can coexist. They can sign Georgia Stanway and a number 6. I don't think Stanway is the signing to play the deepest line midfielder role. Or in that double pivot, she will be, but she's not going to be alongside a Caballente. If they did do that, that would be fascinating to watch. I think it would go horribly wrong. But, with Arsenal losing most likely Kim Litt at the end of this season, she'll likely either retire or go and take a huge paycheck in the NWSL. She's more than entitled to do. She's given so much service to Arsenal. She's won everything now. Why not go in and either retire and enjoy your retirement and potentially go into coaching or something along those lines, or go to the NWSL and get a load of money? Either way, I don't think Kim Litt will be an Arsenal player next season. Then on top of that, I don't think Victoria Pelove will be an Arsenal player. I don't even think Victoria Pelove will be an Arsenal player come the end of this window. I think there's a very good chance that she will move on. I think there's no pressure for her to go and get minutes immediately, but I think it's a good opportunity now to sort of jump ship to a project where she is valued. I think it's quite apparent that Renee Slagers doesn't view Victoria Pelova as sort of the long-term central midfield option. And I think if Stanway's being linked to the club, Harbert's come back on from loan now, so she'll likely get some. I mean, if she doesn't get any minutes in the second half of the season, then she'll leave. So they need to give her opportunities. And so with that, with Cooney Cross coming through, with Mariona Caballente playing that deeper role, I don't really see where Pelova fits. So I think Pelova will move on. Cooney Cross's contract is up in the summer. I do think now with the minutes she's got... I think she's the only one that isn't. Caldente's contract, though, is up in the summer. I don't think that they will let Mariona Caldente leave. It would be more of a case of if Mariona Caldente got a better option, would she leave Arsenal? I personally don't think so, but it's something that hasn't been discussed at all. Either way, that they're going to be left with likely Cooney Cross and one of those three. I think it'll be Caldente. They're still going to need midfield options. And I think Georgia Stanway, it's a difficult one because, yes, they're trying to angle their recruitment to be a lot younger, but you do also need those older players. And if Little is leaving, I think bringing in someone like Georgia Stanway, who's going to bring you that sort of that consistency, that experience. I think it makes a lot of sense. And if you pair her alongside a more defensive player, like we've seen for England, that can be hugely fruitful. So I think with how Arsenal are looking to go forward, I think Georgia Stanway would be a positive signing, provided they get a 6 and provided they push Caldente back into a higher position.
Yeah, I think that's exactly that. I think Stanway can work, but not. You can't just go to sign Georgia Stanway. I also think if they were to bring her in this window for a cut price deal rather than wait for the summer, then, as you say, they've got to shift on those players. Of course, they are leaving in 6 months, but if you keep adding to that pot while you've still got options there, then you're just going to, again, as we've seen with Arsenal, you have so many players who just don't make the matchday squad and barely get a kick. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether they'd go for the pre-contract or whether they'd go for the deal now. I think going for the deal now would be an interesting decision. I think it'd be more sensible to wait till the summer, but I think it's definitely something we could see happening. I think either way, if it was to happen, we will see it confirmed or announced in this window. Whether that's we are pleased to announce with Georgia Stanway will join Arsenal in the summer, or announcing Georgia Stanway as an Arsenal player this month. I think either way, if that deal is going to happen, we will see it in the next few weeks. So it is something to look out for.
Yeah, the only way I don't see Stanway joining Arsenal immediately, or at least the block that I see to that happening, is Bayern's problem in defence midfield. Lena Oberdorf out injured at the moment with an ACL. I believe they've got another ACL injury in midfield. I can't remember who. I want to say Ariana Caruso, but I think she might be their only other
she's
fit
back,
player.
Yeah, she's fine.
But they've only got, I think, Stanway and Caruso or something along those lines. So they need another midfielder. If they go and get an Elisa Sens, if they can go and sign Sioka Nusken, I think they'd be happy then to let Stanway leave. The problem is I don't see them getting Nusken until the summer. So I think Arsenal would have to pay a sort of huge premium to get Stanway now, and I just don't see the value in that. Like, maybe Arsenal believe that they can go and win the cup competitions. Maybe they want Stanway to help them get into Europe, and that would be a pretty key thing. But I think unless you're offering a lot of money, I saw someone suggest that they could do what they did with Chloe Kelly and loan her in, and I think that is so unrealistic. In what world would Bayern do that? So yeah, I think Stanway will be one for the summer. I think it will probably be a pre-contract agreement. I think that will probably be agreed around either towards the end of this month, and that's a positive thing to look forward to next season, or they'll wait and they'll announce it around the March time. But I think that'll be that deal will be done sooner than it's announced.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the same situation Bayern Munich had with Leia Schuler going to Manchester United, and United chose to pay that money now to get the advantage, to get Schuler over the line, rather than wait till the summer, because if we're being honest, United need that boost right now. They are struggling, they are falling away a little bit, and they needed Schuler here and now. I think Arsenal can afford to wait until the summer. They're not in a dire situation in midfield, as you say. We spoke about the options they've already got and that are playing this season. We're not in a situation where Arsenal needs Georgia Stanway right now. If without her, they're not going to get Europe. I think that, as you say, they can very feasibly wait until the summer to get the deal across.
And to add to that, who else is going for Georgia Stanway?
Yeah.
Who else has the allure and the desire to get Georgia Stanway? Obviously, Man City could sign Georgia Stanway if they wanted to. I just don't see why they would do that right now. Someone like Chelsea could go and get Georgia Stanway. I don't see them doing that. I don't see a Barcelona, a Lyon, a PSG making a move. So, in terms of who is actually in for Stanway, Arsenal are the only option, especially if he wants to come back to the WSL. Arsenal feels like the only option. So there's no rush there. Whereas Leia Schuler being out of contract, that would have garnered interest from across Europe. So I can understand to that extent why United would make that decision to pay the money now to sort of secure that transfer ahead of time. But I think Stanway would be a good signing. In terms of the audience reaction, Michael says Stanway not for me at Arsenal. H says, what about Stanway going to United? I don't hate the idea. I think that was rumoured as well. I think that's the only other WSL club, to be fair, going against the point I just made. It's the only other club where there is sort of that gap in the team. But I think United would be better off signing a younger player or an older player. I think Stanway's sort of right in the spot where she's going to block Hinata Miyazawa. Unless they're very happy to rotate, especially if they get Champions League football next season. I think the worry is now, what if United don't get Champions League next season?
Yeah.
Because that severely impacts, and that's another reason why they needed Leia Schuler, because that significantly increased their chance of getting Champions League football, and that changes what they can do in this summer transfer window. A few other things. Lethal saying, I think we are expecting Kim Little to retire soon, so Georgia fills that gap. Jeremy says, when Stan was playing the 10 for England, she made it clear she wanted to play in the 8. Maybe Rene is trying to coach Kyra Cooney Cross to be that defensive midfield player behind her. If Cooney Cross can improve her defensive output and her press resistance, absolutely. I think she's got the technical ability to play that sort of role. And while she is a good creator, it's not like you're wasting a Caldente level creator. That's the problem for me. Caldente is a very technically gifted player to the point that she can play that defensive midfield role. But she's not very press resistant because she's not used to doing that. And I think therefore we see her give the ball away too much in those sort of situations. And we saw it at Everton twice, I think, in the first 15 minutes. She gave the ball away in critical areas, and from one of them they conceded. Yeah. And you also waste the fact that Caldente is one of the best creative players in the world by stifling her at defensive midfield. So potentially that's an option for Cooney Cross, is to be that sort of deeper defensive midfield player. Emily says, aren't Chelsea looking at Stanway? I've not heard any rumour of it. I think with Chelsea and Stanway, Chelsea have got now Walsh, Cuthbert, Nusken. Nusken's obviously one that she could leave in the summer, but they've also got Lexi Potter, who I think they view as the long-term sort of Walsh backup and replacement. And they've got Orion Jean-Francois. So I don't see them bringing in anyone else right now, but potentially. So I think it would, if Nusken was to leave, maybe they'd look at a player. But even then, I'm not sure Stanway is that player that Chelsea would necessarily want. But it would be interesting to see if they did reignite that double pivot of Walsh and Stanway. So potentially so. Just seeing if there's anything else on Stanway in the live chat. Shall we roll on to our next topic? I think that's enough Arsenal for this stream. There's not too much to discuss around Arsenal right now, just that confirmation of Smilla Holmberg and the rumour of Georgia Stanway. Let's get on to Liverpool, because the WSL's bottom side have been a lot more active in the most recent days. We, of course, had a rumour last week of Alice Bergstrom. That was announced earlier this week, I think yesterday, I want to say. And then we've got a rumour as well of an experienced Irish midfielder who we will have a more in-depth video out about later this week, so look out for that. But let's start with the done deal then. Alice Bergstrom signing for Liverpool. Exciting young attacking right winger, who can also deputise at right back, coming in from BK Hairkin. Seems like a really good deal for Liverpool.
Yeah, it's exactly what they needed. We spoke about last week, Liverpool needing a big window, and this is a really good positive start to the winter. We know how good Bergstrom has been, and again, a player that that can offer Liverpool so much. Liverpool they need attacking reinforcements. They need reinforcements across the whole pitch. It seems a silly thing to say, but we know that creatively that front four have struggled, and a lot of the reliance has come on Cornelia Cox to create the chances, and a lot of the reliance has come on Beta Olsen to put the chances away. It would be nice for the Reds to have another option who can kind of share that bit of the burden and just share the weight of creating and scoring chances. A very exciting player, and I think she joins what is a squad where there is pressure in a sense of the fact that Liverpool do need to deliver performances because they're in a really tough spot in the league. But as a player coming in, you're joining the team bottom of the division right now. It's quite a nice environment because if it gives you an opportunity to shine. I always say this. I think playing well in a good team is it shows you're good, but playing well in a team that are struggling is even better because it just shows your quality even more. And if Bergstrom can come in and look as good as she has so far, and in this Liverpool side who are struggling, then I think it's going to be a great platform for her. Even if her performances don't do enough for Liverpool to stay in the league, they could do enough for her to progress her career and get a strong move. So I think it's a big win. Liverpool get a very young, very exciting player that could help them stay in the league, and Bergstrom gets an opportunity to come over to the best league in the world and show the quality she's got, and for her, hopefully, just progress for higher and higher up the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Olivia Smith replacement, isn't it? It's just 6 months too late, I think. In terms of her creativity, her ball carrying, you'd hope it'd be similar levels to Smith. I don't think she's as physical a player as Smith. I don't think she's as direct. I think she's a lot better creator than Smith was. So in terms of being able to I think the front three suddenly looks a lot stronger with her in the side. It's all going to depend on how they use Kapox as well. I think if she's back on the left wing and you're looking at a Kapox, Olsen, Bergstrom, full Swedish front three, that looks really dangerous. I still think Kapox is dangerous in the 10. And if you've got the Enderby that played against West Ham on the left wing, well, she's going to score every game. So going from never scoring before to being electric would be a hell of an achievement. So yeah, if Bergstrom come in and immediately look quite comfortable in the WSL, it's a game-changing sign for Liverpool. I think the fear is if she does struggle to adapt, then she won't be afforded the time that perhaps Kapox was last season. Remember when Kapox came into the league, that physical mismatch was a problem where she would get bullied off the ball. And I think that was a real struggle for Kapox in those first few months at Liverpool. I think Bergstrom needs to adapt quite quickly to the league, and that's going to be difficult. But if she can, I think she can be an absolutely game-changing signing for Liverpool. And I think they've got enough sort of depth in the fact they've got Holland and stuff, and Enderby can play in that position, and they've got players who can play in the 10 and Kapox can play on the left. They should have enough cover in wide areas now that it's not too much an issue if Bergstrom is to have a slow start, but if she starts quickly, that can be a game-changing signing for Liverpool.
Yeah, so, I think that what Bergstrom's got to do is look at. It really depends. As you mentioned, Kapox there is a great example of what happens if you don't hit the ground running. For Bergstrom, got to look at the examples. Look at Beta Olsen for Liverpool this season. Look at Olivia Holt. Now she actually gets to play football, coming into the division and just absolutely thriving. I think Olsen can hopefully will help Bergstrom a lot to link up and to get used to the division. But yeah, as you say, Bergstrom, if she comes in and plays her staff, she's going to be a handful for any team in the league. If she doesn't get going, it will be a real shame. But I think she's got the quality, just got to come in and play her football. Don't overcomplicate it. Do what you just listen to. I think she's going into an environment, although they're bottom of the league, it's you've got a very, very experienced and good manager in Gareth Taylor, and she's got players around her who are of very similar ilk in terms of they've all just that front four with Kapox and Olsen in it, they've all just joined in the last season or two, and I think they're all pretty similar in the way they in the way they play and the way they operate. Very creative, very skillful players. So I think she's going into she's joining a forward line that should suit her, and under a manager that will give her the opportunities to excel. Yeah, I think Bergstrom's a very good signing, and I really hope she does hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think attack isn't a problem for Liverpool as much as some of the other areas of their team. So it's very much she'll either be a ceiling raising signing, and that could be huge for Liverpool, or she'll be a depth option. But either way, I don't think there's too much pressure on her to come in and immediately set the league alight. Of course, if she does, as I say, that's game changing for Liverpool. But I don't think there's too much pressure on her. The other rumour then coming this week, linking the North Carolina Courage and Irish midfielder Denise O'Sullivan with a move back to the WSL, and specifically with a move back to Liverpool. Fascinating one, really. It was just a year ago we were talking about O'Sullivan with a potential move to Aston Villa or to Manchester United. The United deal apparently was closed. O'Sullivan, though, wasn't happy or didn't like the environment at United or whatever, decided not to join there in the end. But I think with Liverpool now looking close to completing that deal, this could be a huge signing for the Reds.
Yeah, very exciting rumour if you're a Liverpool fan. I think, again, we speak about those signings that get fans and get pundits off their seats. This would be one. If Liverpool could get O'Sullivan into their ranks come the end of the window, that would be a huge coup for Gareth Taylor and his side, and a huge boost. It's exactly what they need. It's a player who would just come in, and it's not even her technical quality, but the experience and the years that she has playing the game would just come in and steady the ship. That Liverpool side has looked lost at sea. That defence in the midfield, they get lost, they get overrun, and they're in trouble. And I think it's exactly what Liverpool need. Is that just from a mental point of view, I think would be a real. She'd come in and be a real leader and just help to steady the ship and get Liverpool pointing in the right direction. Cut out a few errors, can cover for players, and I think a player that a lot of people could learn off. But and obviously we know she's very technically good, a brilliant player. This would be massive for Liverpool if this rumour is true and they can get the money out for it. This would be a huge transfer, because we know O'Sullivan is a quality player. You mentioned it there. The likes of Man United wanted her. So if Liverpool, who currently sit bottom of the league, could go and pick her up, that would be a huge boost, and suddenly they could be looking at a much more positive second half of the season. But yeah, Denise O'Sullivan, what a player she is. We know the quality she's got. She's shown it over in the NWSL. I think it would be very exciting if she was to come over to England and really show her stuff.
I think it speaks volumes about the strength of WSL right now. That we look at Liverpool, we look at West Ham, as we'll get to next, and the calibre of players they're being linked with is so high. But yeah, I think O'Sullivan is a fantastic signing. I think she's a great communicator, and that's so important. I think without Grace Fisk, that's been a big reason why Liverpool's defence has gone so awry, because there is no communication there. But I think O'Sullivan will bring that in. I think O'Sullivan gives you a much more defensive option in midfield. I think that Nagano has been often used as that sort of single pivot player, at least at the start of the season. Then with injuries, it's moved to more of a double pivot. I think with O'Sullivan, we'll either see Nagano back into that single pivot where she can thrive, or we'll see that double pivot, but it'll be a lot more flexible, and we'll see O'Sullivan drop in and Nagano given a little bit more of license to get forward, and we know she can do well in that sort of role. Or we'll see Nagano drop in, and we know O'Sullivan can do well in attacking areas as well. So I think either way, I think the midfield is going to look a lot more balanced with O'Sullivan in there. I think it could free up McLean to sort of play that 10 role. It could free up Kapoch to go and play out on the left wing. So actually, the impact not only on giving Liverpool more options in midfield, but also then being able to put players back in their normal positions could be huge for Liverpool. I think she's a fantastic footballer. From what I've analysed, great passing range. I think what I love the most about her is her anticipation, her reading of the game, and her ability just to sort of pounce on moments and win the ball back, especially against teams who are moving the ball really slowly. She's excellent at anticipating when those touches are going to be heavy, jumping in front of those passes, winning the ball back. I think there's been so many times this season where Liverpool have looked way too passive in the press. So bringing her in, someone who can turn that ball over with sort of a high rate of success, is going to be excellent for Liverpool. And I think it should help them to be a lot more dangerous, actually, when they don't have the ball. I think oftentimes they sort of sit deep, especially those games against your Arsenals, your Chelseas. They've got some results this season. They've given teams a good game at times, but it's often just sitting really deep and sort of waiting for the inevitable. But I think what O'Sullivan gives you is someone who can win that ball back and then spread it quickly, and suddenly Liverpool offers some sort of counter threat. So I think they've got the attacking players to do that. They just haven't really had anyone who can win that ball back quickly and release it.
Yeah, I think it's the thing about O'Sullivan is it's incredible to see a player that is so good going forwards and it can be so positive, but also brings steel and a lot of defensive work. And I think that is another thing that Liverpool do lack, is that when you're down the bottom and when you're up against it in a campaign, you've got to dig your heels in and get stuck into games and make it difficult for oppositions. There's been too many times where I think that Liverpool, as you say, they're very passive. They can shrug their shoulders a bit. And, I think look at the Chelsea 9-1 game. Chelsea could just weave their way through and no one would stop them. O'Sullivan is the type of player who will get a challenge. I'm not saying that she's not a dirty player at all. She's not smashing into people, but she will get stuck into the game. She won't allow players to waltz past her and score a goal. She won't just dangle her leg. She'll get stuck in with accuracy, which again is a very good talent. But I think that's what Liverpool need: a bit of grit and a bit of steel. A player that's going to work hard, give 110%, but not run around like a crazy person. Can then be sensible with the football and retain possession while also being positive with it. I think that she's a player that got so many qualities. As I said, if this rumour is true, what a signing it could be for Liverpool.
Absolutely, and the reaction of people in the live chat, saying O'Sullivan is superb, one of the most underrated players in the world for me. Attracting players like Denise is the reason Liverpool invested in infrastructure rather than blowing all the money on players. Emily really excited for the move as well as, and the same as well for the move of Alice Bergstrom joining Liverpool. So yeah, things are looking really positive for Liverpool, I think, after a slow start to the season. I mean, this is the thing. People talk about Liverpool as though it's sort of a lost cause and why would these players want to join? But when you look at the expected points model, and it has them, I think, 8th in the league still, or 9th, sorry, the sort of the leading pack of those bottom sides and kind of close that midfield fight. I think when you look at where that has them and I think where that potential is for the Liverpool team, I think it makes sense why these players are joining. I think this Liverpool team has players who can quite comfortably compete in the top half of the table. The problem is, I don't think any of their back four or goalkeeper can. And that has to change. Other than Grace Fisk, but Fisk's been out injured since about November. So that's been a huge problem. I think Liverpool have to invest in their defence next. If they don't, all of this will be a waste. Yeah. Because you can play lovely football in attacking areas, but if every time the ball comes forward, someone makes a massive mistake and it goes in the goal, what does it matter? You can't win every game having a strong attack. So they do have to invest in their defence. I think they need to sign a top quality goalkeeper. Emily's mentioned Jenna Falk, but as Jomo says, Falk has just re-signed with BK Herkins. That seems unlikely now. We saw Maria Gross linked with the WSL as well, which I think Liverpool makes a lot of sense in that. Since people talk about Arsenal, but I think that would be a really strange signing for Arsenal because Gross isn't a goalkeeper who's going to come in and be better than Van Domselaar, but she's also not a goalkeeper who's going to be really happy sitting second or third option. So I think for me, Liverpool would make a lot of sense for someone like Maria Graz.
Yeah, and that's exactly what these kind of signings do for Liverpool, is you have that knock-on effect. If Liverpool get O'Sullivan through the door, if I'm a player that is joining Liverpool, I'd look at it first and go, well, they are bottom of the league. But then I'd look at the squad, I'd look at the fact they've been able to bring in players like O'Sullivan and go, clearly there's something going on there. There's a lot of quality. And then you're more likely to join it. So obviously, people may be surprised by the fact that Liverpool, we are throwing these names around with Liverpool and they've got these rumours and this and that going on. But I think that it is easy to forget the potential Liverpool have, but also the quality they've had over the last couple of years. They are nowhere near a relegation side. We know the quality of that squad. Even when they didn't play very well over last season and the season before that, they were still performing decently. And I think that anyone can beat anyone in the WSL, and if Liverpool keep bringing in signings like Bergstrom, and if they can get someone like O'Sullivan through the door, I look at the second half of the season with a lot very positive. I think it's very, very important when you get it wrong on the pitch in the first half of the season and results don't go your way. In that January window, you've got to get it right off the pitch, and currently, Liverpool are doing that. So, yeah, a lot of positivity. As you say, a defender and a goalkeeper with O'Sullivan and Bergstrom would be a very, very, very good window for Liverpool.
I'll also say there's a very strong contingent of Irish Liverpool fans, and I think this is exactly the kind of signing you need to merge those camps. It's not really a thing. At least I'm not aware of it being a thing massively in the women's game yet, but in the men's game, we know there's that sort of strong connection. A lot of Irish fans, or a lot of Irish people are fans of Liverpool because of that proximity. It is only a ferry, I believe. So that is something that if they can attract the same crowd to come and see one of their international stars play, that is a huge opportunity for Liverpool. So if they can strengthen that bond, I think O'Sullivan does that brilliantly. But yeah, I think Taylor's got the players he needs now in attacking areas. It's going to be about the defence because they haven't invested there at all. That has to be the next step. We know, Alice Bergstrom can play right back, but I don't think that is her best position at all, and that doesn't help them defensively. No. It just gives them a right back who's really good going forwards. But I think they need to bring in defenders. That has to be the next port of call, really, for Liverpool. Quickly, before we move on, because I've got other things to discuss, but Shireen asks, has Man City bought any player so far? No, we've not seen a single rumour for Manchester City just yet this window, which has been interesting. But I think they'll play their card. I think they're keeping their cards close to their chest. So I think they'll wait for the right market opportunity. I haven't seen them linked with anyone in terms of positions where they could look. I think they may look to strengthen the back line. I think they may look to strengthen the midfield. I think they could do with another striker, but if Fowler is not too far from returning and they've still got Miedema who can cover there, I don't think that's too bad. But I think in terms of where City could improve, another defender, I suggested in my video, Sada Hort. I think that would be a fantastic addition to the side. If they can bring someone in like that, I think it just gives them something else to be very confident about them winning the league. I think they've just got to cover now in case of any injuries. Get in a defensive midfielder or trust Ayamu. And then, bring in a striker that can replace Khadija Shaw, because if she gets injured, the wheels come off. It's the same for Yui Hasegawa. They've got to be mindful of that. But I think outside of that, City, it's very difficult at the moment to sign players who will improve the team. If they win the league, that's when that comes. But they're looking really strong. They just need more options, more depth. To make sure there aren't any issues in the back half of this season. Also push for the cup competitions because they're in the semi-finals now of the League Cup. They've got FA Cup second round coming up against Bournemouth. They shouldn't have any issues there. You'd expect a club like Man City to be getting to the latter stage of that. So if they can be competitive on all domestic fronts this year, I think the best way of doing that is signing and having some extra depth. So I think that's what's got to be next for Manchester City. Let's move on, though, to our next club, another relegation-threatened side, and it is West Ham United. We're starting to see the Rita Guarino effect, Harry, because Estelle Cascarino, formerly of OL Lyonnais, Manchester United, Paris Saint-Germain, and currently of Juventus, is linked to West Ham. Care to explain what's happening there, Harry?
It's incredible what former managers can do. I think we've seen it a lot in the men's game. We've seen it a little bit in the women's game, but I think this would be a massive, massive example of it. Is that a manager's faith in a player and a player's trust in a coach can make the difference no matter what club they're both going at. I think Guarino coming in at West Ham, we knew that she'd have a lot of players on her side, and if Cascarino believes in Guarino's system and believes in in Rita Guarino as a coach, this would be a very, very exciting deal. And for West Ham, they would be sat there laughing because I think it would be an incredible, incredible transfer. And it's exactly what can happen when you bring in a coach like Guarino, when she's got that experience, but also those players behind her that will follow her wherever she goes. And I think that will be a massive part of this transfer, if it is to happen, is that Rita Guarino will want her, and Cascarino will be happy to reunite with her former coach. But yeah,
if they sign Girelli next week, that's when we start to worry.
Yeah, I mean that, and then suddenly Liverpool might be relegated because West Ham are going to win the league. But yeah, I think that Estelle Cascarino, as you mentioned, a player with a lot of pedigree, a lot of quality, and that although it hasn't been her time at Juventus and that move has been a bit hit and miss, I think she's still a player that can offer a lot to a club like West Ham, especially a side struggling lower, in the lower echelons of the WSL. So yeah, I think Cascarino, a top quality player with a lot of reputation. It's exactly what you need when you're down the bottom. Again, it's a signing we look at and we go, wow, that is what you need to do when you're up against it in the division. You've brought in a new manager, and what it also shows is it shows they're backing her up immediately. That is the crucial step. It shows there is faith in Guarino to come in and deliver. They're going to give her what she wants, and if she can get Cascarino in the door, then that could be a very, very positive move for West Ham.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is, I believe Estelle Cascarino was one of the first signings of Guarino's reign at Juventus. I think they joined in the same summer. So, I mean, potentially this is going to be a fantastic addition. I think when you think about how West Ham are going to play next season, the second half of this season, it is going to be a big shift. We're going to see them move from a very rigid and defensive and quite mind-boggling system under Ryan Skinner so far this season, to what is going to be a much more aggressive, much more possession-oriented system. And I think that is a big shift, because when you look at some of those West Ham defenders, I would have concerns over the likes of Eva Nystra, and particularly the likes of, they've been playing Uendo at centre-back, Camilla Size, Shalena Zadorsky. They're the kind of players I think could struggle in a very possession-oriented system. But when I think about Cascarino joining, I think about a partnership of Tisiak and Cascarino playing out from the back. That gives me a lot more faith of them being able to pull off Rita Guarino's sort of footballing philosophy. And if they can be excellent on the ball, and they can get these players to thrive and then attract others who can join this sort of project, Katrina Gori is going to thrive in this football. Yeah. She's done really well despite playing quite stodgy football. She's a great ball progressor. Think of her now playing that deeper defence midfield role. I think the attack will thrive in this new system, but they've got to bring in wing backs, they've got to bring in midfielders, and they have to bring in left centre half. This is perfect for West Ham United. Estelle Cascarino, an experienced player. She has been in the WSL before, albeit it was a loan move, I believe, at Manchester United, or it may have been a permanent. Either way, it only lasted, I think, a year, and she played 2 games. So she's not exactly an experienced WSL player, but she has played in the league before. She's an experienced European player. She came through at OL Lyonnais, made a move to Paris Saint-Germain after that, has played at a top European club in Juventus. So for West Ham to be able to pull a player of her calibre to the club, Rita Guarino looks already a fantastic signing, because that doesn't happen under Ryan Skinner. They'd have been looking around, other Irish and British players they could have signed. But I think Cascarino coming into this team, that centre-back partnership is suddenly going to look incredibly good. And if they can bring in some full-backs, I think they may lose Anouk Denton in the process, because there's a rumour she might go the other way to Juventus. But if they can bring in some full-backs who can play this sort of football, they can bring in another midfielder, because I think they're really lacking a sort of more attacking creative midfielder. I think Gori will probably play as a deeper player. Yeah. They've got Una Siren, who is sort of this brilliant utility player. And in fact, she may even be that deeper midfielder, just to be that sort of defensive linchpin. But you need someone who's going to be brilliant in the final third at breaking teams down. That could even be Ueki if they're confident about sort of Morgan playing one wing, Asai on the other, and Martinez up front. That it could be Ueki in that role. But I think Ueki will be on the right. They can bring in an attack midfielder, or put a lot of faith in Sara Bracero Carrera, I believe her name is, or Sara Bracero for short. I think if they can put faith in her, or bring in someone to play that role, that midfield starts to look really good. But they need they need a live wire in there to sort of liven up that midfield. But I really like this signing for West Ham. I think it makes them much stronger in possession. That's exactly what Guarino wants.
Yeah, it's I think it's very, very exciting to see even the sides, down at the bottom of the WSL being linked with these European pedigree players, these players that have been there and done it at some of the best teams in the world. I think that is really exciting from fans of the WSL. That it's really positive to see those kind of players. But yeah, if West Ham can keep backing Guarino like this, like they are with this deal, then I think West Ham could be in again another side in for a very good second half of the season.
And this is why when people say, "Oh, which league's better, the WSL or the Liga F?" Does Estelle Cascarino join the 11th place team in the Liga F?
No.
Does she join anywhere below third?
No.
I don't think so. She probably goes to Atleti, Real, Barca. Yeah. Outside of that, she doesn't. She's coming to West Ham, and it shows the strength of this league. It's going to keep getting better. This is a fantastic signing for West Ham. Let's move on to another club threatened by relegation who are improving, and it's not Everton. They've gone asleep this January transfer window. We have no idea what's happening in Everton, but we can talk about another team in blue. It is Leicester City. A lot of business apparently happening in the next few days after the signing of Julie Blackstad and Hannah Veek at Tottenham. They're looking at Ashley Neville. Let's start though with their other move, which is a loan move coming in from Aston Villa. Sarah Mayling, Harry. What do you think of this for Leicester?
I think it's a very positive deal. A player, a lot of WSL experience. I believe she just celebrated her 10th year, I think, at Aston Villa, or 10 years of playing in England, and a phenomenal player, been a brilliant servant for Villa. But this season has been a bit out of, not out of touch, but out of sorts, not really been selected by Arroyo. But Leicester City in dire need of defenders that can bring quality and help them play this Rick Passmore system, which is just everyone sits on their line. And I think Sarah Mayling is very suited to that kind of football. She's a solid defensive player. I don't think technically she's the best player in the world, but she does a very, very good job. And we've seen it in that Aston Villa side over the years. Villa side who, when they were at the bottom, Mayling was always part of a back four or back five that would sit deep and would come under a lot of pressure. I think that Mayling is very used to that, and it could be a very useful signing for Leicester City, and would definitely help them on that right hand side with the amount of injuries and defensive problems they have had. Just a bit of a no nonsense fullback. She's not going to try and take people on. Not going to of course she can be positive, but not going to overcomplicate it and do something silly. Pretty error prone. I think if she can kick the if she she's very, in terms of clearances, it's very, very, I'm trying to think of the word, but a no-nonsense defender is the best way to put it. There's no funny business with Mayling. She will get rid of the ball. She won't stand there. It's a bit of a risk-free defender. But yeah, I think that Mayling overall is a very solid, experienced fullback that will definitely boost Leicester's ranks.
Yeah, Rick Passmore spoke a lot about wanting WSL experience. I think when you look at that Leicester back line, they do sorely lack it. They lost Howard in the summer. They haven't really replaced that experience. They've struggled a lot actually for right backs this season. They don't have any. Bentley Beaver asked why 2 right backs though. They don't have a right back. They've got Heather Payne, who's capable of playing sort of a wing back role, but in terms of back four, they don't really have anyone who can play right back. And Mayling's been in the opposite problem, where she is very good at playing right back, but she's not a wing back and she's not a centre half. So in that Villa system, she's not getting minutes over Chastity Grant. They've just recalled Robinson as well, which definitely points towards her playing that right wing back role. I think we'll see Mayling thrive really though at Leicester City, able to play a role she's much more suited to. I think as well it being a loan move is great because I think Arroyo's safe at Villa, but if she was to be sacked and a different manager comes in, I think that she can go back to being that right back if they do go back to a back four. So I think it makes sense for Villa. And if she goes in at Leicester and does really well, and Villa don't want her, Leicester can then buy her in the summer rather than taking that risk now. So I think this is a win for all parties. Mayling's not really got any minutes this season. This is a good opportunity for her to get back to playing football. I think for Leicester City, they're bringing in a defender who, as you say, is very no-nonsense, doesn't make too many errors, super strong right back. So I really like this as a signing. Leicester need WSL proven players. They've got a very good back line, I think, as Mita El's excellent. I think Yuli Tebow's really good. I really rate Sarah Keys as well. But what that back line doesn't have is experience. They've got one combined. They all played last season for Leicester. They've all played this season so far. That's it, though, in terms of their WSL experience. They're all players who haven't played a lot of WSL football. So I think in terms of bringing in Sarah Mayling, but especially Ash Neville, as we'll get to, that's a lot of experience coming into the side. Let's talk Ash Neville then. WSL proven experience. She's Tottenham's longest serving player. It is probably her right time to move on now. As much as I've seen a lot of Tottenham fans quite upset about this, because she is she is a player who's been there a long time, and I imagine the fans have quite a good connection to her. But I think in terms of where Tottenham are going and the side that Martin Ho is building, Ash Neville moving on is the right time now. And I think Leicester is a good move for her.
Yeah, I think with Ash Neville, we spoke about it this season, that Tottenham are becoming a top 5 club. Tottenham are becoming a side that want to push for Europe, and I don't think Ash Neville is at that level of player. If Tottenham were to qualify and Ash Neville was still in the squad, do I think Ash Neville should be playing UWSL football? Absolutely not. But can she still play at a very adequate level in the WSL for a side like Leicester? Absolutely. I think Tottenham are taking that step up now, and I don't think Neville should go with them. But Leicester should come in, and I know Neville can be a little bit inconsistent at times, but as you say, in a side that are going to sit defensive, they need experience, and again, they're not asking too much. They're not asking her to come in and be the best player in the world. They're not asking her to go. They're asking her to come in and lead with it by example, put in some decent performances, and just help tighten their defence up. And I think Ash Neville can absolutely do that. She's a decent player, and again, as I said, on her day, I think she can be a really, really good defender. And if she can just help out with and mentor some of the other defenders in that back line, then she could be a very good pickup. But especially having her and Mayling in rotation, it would then give that, there wouldn't be that pressure on Neville to perform every single game. It would balance the books between two experienced defenders who both can be very decent on their day. So, yeah, I think Neville, it's a very, very experienced signing, a player that has been at Tottenham for a while, but I think it suits everyone for her to take the step down to Leicester.
Yeah, and Janina Leipzig is really good at saving penalties, which is going to be really important now.
That is
because,
true.
so, I mean, it's the perfect fit, isn't it? So they do need to make sure Ash Neville doesn't give away too many penalties. But yeah, I think it's a good signing for Leicester, as Phil says rightly in the chat. At this point, I think any incoming signings are huge for Leicester. I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It is a really thin squad. There are a lot of areas that need improvement. This solves that right back issue now. I think they'll want to bring another centre back. They need a defensive midfielder now with Celeste Bourreal out for the rest of the season. That's a horrible ACL injury as well. And they could probably do with attacking reinforcements, because I don't see. I think Shannon O'Brien's had a really good season, but is she a WSL level striker? Arguably not at this point. I think when you look at the rest of the league, Leicester are in real danger of being left behind. I like they're bringing in WSL experienced players. When the sides below you in the table are making signings from Juventus, are making signings coming in from the NWSL and clubs like North Carolina Courage, and you're scrounging around the bargain bin of sort of the sides directly above you in the table, it shows where Leicester are at. But if it keeps them in the WSL this season and gives them something to build from next summer, that's great. I just think they've boxed themselves in. I think by giving Rick Passmore that permanent contract, you've very much left it now to, well, we're just going to hope to survive this season. And Passmore's going to use the fact that he's got the contacts in the WSL and he's someone who knows these players, that he can then bring them to the club. But I think in terms of, you look at the managers who have managed across Europe and have those connections at big clubs, they're bringing in some really big signings, and I just don't think they've got that allure, Leicester, with Passmore as managers. That's a real problem for them, but they're making the best of what they got. I have to say, though, I think with the way that West Ham and Liverpool's recruitment is going and the players they've got, I think unless Leicester make some huge signs in the next few weeks, I'd be really worried about Leicester City.
Yeah, these are signings that should happen 6 months ago, when their squad was light and they needed players to come in and reinforce and just to help them steady the ship. I think that, as you say, Rick Passmore has done exactly what he needs to in the first 6 months. Be defensive and just get points on the board. That's perfect. But now they need to kick on. And I just don't think that's going to happen. And that's the problem. If they don't kick on now, yes, they've got the points. But as you say, those teams behind them could start catching that up with a few good performances. I think they've done well to get points on the board. But I think that they have got a bit fortunate in a couple of those games. And again, have been a bit lucky that Liverpool and West Ham have been as poor as they have this campaign. But if the sides below them get it right and Leicester don't kick on in this window, then I think that, as you say, they've got to be looking over their shoulder. They might just be able to do enough to just get enough points to stay up. But I think it could end up being a bit of a tight one come the end of the season.
Yeah, and as the Bentley Beaver and Phil both say in the live chat, Bentley Beaver says Leicester City will have the tightest budget in the WSL, no doubt as well. Phil says for Leicester, it's the age-old thing, and the men's team struggling, and the women's team taking a big hit. Unfortunately, absolutely, the finances since the tragic passing of Vishai Sridvanapraha have been really bad. We know that it's basically been passed on to his family, who don't really know what they're doing, and that's been quite evident with the financial mismanagement. And what we're seeing now is that the football club is feeling the consequences of that. Leicester City, the men's side, are struggling in the Championship this season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the women's team dropped to second tier as well. But they're doing really well at the moment. The on-field, and this is the important distinction, the on-field team, the management, the coaching staff, they're getting absolutely everything out of the resources that they've got, and that's really important. But I do worry that with the resource of the teams below them, when we're talking about Liverpool, the amount of money that they can put into that team, if they wanted to, I just don't see any way that it fails. I think they'll have enough now to sort of stay in the league. I think Gate is a really good manager as well. I know there'll be people to disagree with that, but I really rate Taylor as a manager. And then you've got West Ham, and I know things aren't great at West Ham either in terms of their owners, but they've still got a lot of money. I mean, they don't go for Estelle Cascarino if they're offering out low contracts. So they've got money to work with there, and I think that shows. And I do think that we haven't seen much from Everton this window, and if Brian Sorensen can't resist the urge to put everyone out of position, maybe they'll go down. But I think that I think if they can keep Kelly Gargo, she'll score enough goals to keep them up. So I think Leicester done really well to claim the points they have, but they aren't playing particularly attractive football. And I just think that if Liverpool and West Ham get their acts together, Leicester will be the team that are in a bit of trouble. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully that they sort out the financial issues and the women's team can stop feeling the hit of everything else at the club. But we'll see what happens. Let's move on then to our final team before we get into some of your questions. It is, of course, Tottenham. Tottenham have been the most active team ever in a transfer window. We thought United started fast when they made 2 additions before the window had even opened. Tottenham, I think we're just waiting for the window open to make all their announcements, because last week we spoke about the confirmed deal for Signa Gausset. We spoke about a few rumours. They've announced 4 signings since that show last week. Let's start with that right back. So we're just talking about Ash Neville leaving the club, and this is perhaps why. Hanavik coming in from BK Häcken on a long-term contract. I hate when clubs say that. Just tell us how long it is, but that is how it goes. Hanavik coming into the side is a very confident, comfortable right back. Really well accomplished as well in the Swedish league, and I think exactly what Tottenham need really to kick on in that position.
Yeah, exactly that. We came into this window and again, I mentioned it a moment ago, but you look at Tottenham trying to kick on, trying to take that step to the next level, and right back was the position they probably needed to add a bit of quality, and I think Vik does that very, very well. Very capable player, and again, I think it's a very, very important signing because it's not a flashy player. It's not someone that we're going to come in and see take the league by storm, but it's a player that can give you consistency, solid, just a bit of solidity as well, and deliver 7 out of 10 performances every single week. That's exactly what Tottenham need right now. They need defenders that aren't going to make errors. They need defenders that are just going to do their job and what is asked of them. And I think that Hanavik can do that a lot. And it helps that she's joining the contingent of players from Häcken and from Scandinavia at Tottenham. But yeah, another very, very good player. I think the one for me that makes the most sense is a position they needed a quality in, and Hanavik gives them a lot of options in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, Tottenham looking to kick on. This is the kind of signing that makes that happen. I think they'll be very pleased with the business they've done in this window. Undisclosed fee, would expect it to be somewhere in the region of £100,000, £200,000, I would expect. Yeah. For a player of her quality and her potential, I think that would be a very good fee. If it's anything more than that, I'd be slightly wary of them overpaying. If it's anything less than that, then BK Häcken have been robbed blind. But yeah, I think there's definitely a transfer fee involved, and Häcken will have been compensated very handsomely for how many players they have lost so far this transfer window. Let's discuss another one of those players, because Tottenham have signed 2 from BK Häcken, and it is Matilda Nilden, sister, of course, of existing Tottenham player Amanda Nilden. This makes a lot of sense. I think we could see another, we're seeing sisters like to play with each other a lot. I think we could see the same at Chelsea in the not too distant future of a fullback and winger combination with Alyssa Thompson and Giselle Thompson, but Tottenham making it happen now with Matilda Nilden. This one I view as much more one for the future. I think very capable right winger, but if Naz was fit, I think she's immediately behind her in the pecking order. I do think, though, with Naz out, she'll get more opportunities. However, they have brought in, as we'll get to, Maika Hamano, who'll probably play that role. I think we'll see a little bit of Olivia Holt on that right-hand side as well. So potentially we'll see Nilden as more of an up and coming player and getting those sort of last 30 minutes. But this is a player with huge potential and exactly what Martin Ho wants to add to the side.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer for everyone involved. You say Tottenham is a player that could deliver for them a lot in the future and help them out a little bit now. And for Nilden, she comes into a bit of a risk-free environment. Not only it's an environment that she knows is going to be a nice one to play in, and she's got her sister alongside her, so developing and coming into the country and adapting to the league and to the culture should be a lot easier than it would be for any other player coming in, because Amanda Nilden's also at Tottenham. But also, it's a risk-free endeavour for her in terms of there is no expectation from Matilda Nilden to come in and deliver from the off. She will have time to settle in, have time to adapt to the game, and then start to deliver performances. No one's expecting her to come and smash up loads and loads of goal contributions in the second half of the season. She will have time to adjust, and I think that is key for a young player with a lot of potential, is that she's not going to be rushed in or forced to play loads a minute or expect the world of her. She's a player that I think will definitely just quietly go about her business for the next year or two, but someone in the future that could be a real top player for Tottenham and either be part of this Tottenham project and this evolution, or someone Tottenham in the long term can shift on for a lot of money. So yeah, I think it makes sense for everybody involved in a transfer that hopefully we can sit here in a couple of years' time and say it worked out for all parties.
I don't see how it doesn't, in terms of the fact that even if she's not WSL level, she's a player with huge potential.
Yeah.
They can probably still get a good fee for her in a couple of years' time from somewhere across Europe or something like that. So I think this is a really exciting deal. As Bentley Beaver says, 41 caps for Sweden at youth level as well. Seems like a really handy investment. Yeah. And as you say, settling shouldn't be a problem. You're not going to get the issue on Football Manager where there's no one who speaks their language that you can't settle. At this rate, I think it'll be Beth England who's going to struggle to find someone to talk to, because they're all Swedish. So I think she'll settle well, and she's got a lot of players around her, especially obviously having a sister in the side. It's going to be easier to settle. So yeah, I think this is a good signing for all parties. Really, it's the exact sort of right step now that Nilden needs to kick on. The concern would be game time, but I think with Jess Naz, obviously with that long-term injury, it's going to have an opportunity for Matilda Nilden, to get those opportunities at right wing. So yeah, I think this is exactly what Tottenham needs. When you think about the Villa Harm season where they were in the top half, and then it all sort of fell apart. There was very little investment, and the investment that was there went horribly wrong. This looks like really well thought out, really well structured investment, and they're backing Martin Ho, and rightfully so. Ho's a top manager. They're bringing in players that he wants. I think they're going to look really strong now, and they're looking to kick on. Moving on to their next signing, then we'll do their last permanent before we get onto the loan move. Julie Blackstad coming in. Julie Blackstad, a previous WSL player, was at Manchester City just a few seasons ago, where she played almost exclusively in midfield, but she's predominantly a left back last season at Hammarby. 15 goals though from that position. That is nothing short of ridiculous, and I think she'll really challenge Amanda Nilden for that left back spot in the team. Yeah,
again, it's another brilliant bit of business from Tottenham. You bring in a player who's got a little bit of WSL experience, not loads, but still a bit, will massively help, and the versatility as well is going to be crucial. But yeah, I think that again, left back is that one spot where we've seen Nilden have a lot of minutes, and I think to be able to share those out and to add a bit of rotation in there will massively help Tottenham. Again, they won't run out of steam, and I think it's also quality depth. It's the biggest problem of sides when they are trying to make that next step, is that their good start runs away because of a lack of depth. Look at Brighton last season, a brilliant kick on in the first half of the campaign, but a lack of quality depth, and injuries kicked in, and you get into the new year and you struggle. But Tottenham, Blackstad is another player who will come in and compete and will offer you quality in a position where you've already got a very tidy player in Amanda Nilden. But yeah, again, Tottenham adding another top player for me, and I think a player that can come in and deliver right now, with on top of the good performances that Nilden's been putting in. So yeah, again, a no-brainer for Tottenham, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone, by the way, that's getting questions into the live chat, we're going to do a segment answering all your questions. So save them for just a moment. But the last deal for Tottenham and the guy of the line, a loan move from Maika Hamano. This one's been viewed very interestingly, I think, by quite a few people, on both camps really. Some Tottenham fans going, well, she's not going to be a permanent signing realistically next summer. I don't see Chelsea making that signing. So for a lot of Tottenham fans, it's been, well, this feels a little bit pointless because Blackstad can cover that position. Holt is already thriving there. Gaupset can play attack midfield. But with Naz out injured, with the fact that Tottenham are going to have a lot of games coming up in the next few months, does it make sense to bring in Maika Hamano?
Yeah, I think, of course, I get what they're saying. I understand Tottenham have got a lot of quality players in those kind of attacking positions, but I think this loan move, it reminds me a lot of when you start a FIFA Ultimate Team and you get to pick one of the world's best players and you get them on loan for 5-10 games. This is what Hamano...
She's not Pele.
No, I know, but personally, I think Maika Hamano can still do a very, very good job for Chelsea, one of the best clubs in the world. I think Hamano's got that quality. Some people will disagree, and clearly, Bonpastor does. That's why she's going out on loan, because there are players of other. But I think Maika Hamano is a special, special player. So for Tottenham, this is kind of like you get a free hit, really. You get 6 months. I know the Asian Cup's in there as well, but you get half a season of having one of the best, an incredible attacking midfielder. And at the end of the season, she'll probably just go back for Chelsea. But think of what she can do for Tottenham in these 6 months. She's a player that, although she's young, she's also got a lot of experience. And we're talking about Tottenham potentially qualifying for the Champions League and potentially winning a trophy this season. Obviously looking at the FA Cup. Hamano is a player that, despite her young age, she's been there and done that for Chelsea. She's won a lot of trophies. She's been in these tight title battles. And I think that is very, very valuable to a Tottenham side. That is the one thing Tottenham have got, is they've got a lot of quality and a lot of young, exciting talents. But the thing they lack is a bit of experience of doing it at the highest level and winning things and getting over the line. And although Hamano is young, she has done that with Chelsea now, and that could be valuable once they get into the run-in and the pressure's on Tottenham. Hamano's the kind of player that can step up and deliver. So yeah, I think it is a positive one for Tottenham. I can understand why people do see it as a little bit silly because of the options that Tottenham have got and the fact Hamano will miss a bit of the second half of the season, and they probably won't be made a permanent in the summer. But I think it's a half a season burst of having one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. So for me, I think it makes a lot of sense for Tottenham. I really do.
Yeah, I think to just look at that, because I think it makes complete sense for Tottenham. I think the fact that they need someone who can cover for the next few... I think she'll play a lot of football in January and February. She's obviously going to the Asian Games in March. That's why she wants to make this happen. Yeah. But I think for Tottenham, it's someone who can cover them very nicely in the next 2 months. And then if they need it in April or May, they can keep playing her. I don't realistically see them signing her permanently.
No.
Because once Naz is back... I think they'll have, then you've got, you think about the squad being Blackstad can play either left back or in that sort of attacking midfield position. You will have Holt, who can play attack midfield. You'll have Gaupset, who can play there, but I think she'll play predominantly on the left wing. Wimberg can play on the left wing. And then Nilden and Naz on the right wing. England and Tamberg up front. Really nice cover. I think what Tottenham will look to do in the summer is probably improving that midfield area. Subban and Spence have done brilliantly for them this season, but there are better midfielders out there. So I think they will probably look to probably do the same as they have here, which is bring in young players and sort of just bleed them in over time.
Yeah.
And I think that will work out. I think they'll look to bring in centre-back cover at the end of this window, because if they go through March with Bartrip and James Turner as their only centre-backs, they will lose those matches in March.
Yeah.
So I think they need to bring in centre-backs. And I think Hunt and Koga have been fantastic, but they need some depth in that position. I wouldn't be surprised if they look to move on some of the players they've got in those positions already. I think that would make complete sense really for Tottenham. But I think for Chelsea, from the Chelsea perspective, for this move, Hamano is not going to play loads in the next 6 months. Or next 5 months really. She would probably play a bit in January, February. Mm-hmm. The fact she's going to the Asian Cup in March, though, she'll get a lot more minutes at Tottenham. And I think a lot of people use this to say, well, clearly Bonpastor doesn't rate Hamano, but I'd say actually it shows she rates her really highly. I think if she didn't care about Hamano and sort of her having a future at Chelsea, it's easy just to leave her on the bench, have her as a backup option, and not be too concerned about her development. I think the fact that she wants to move her out on loan to a WSL, top competing WSL side who play a similar system to Chelsea, I think it shows that Bonpastor rates Hamano really highly, wants her to get some minutes in the next 2 months, go to the Asian Games and thrive. I think when we think about the summer, I don't see a world in which Kat Macario is at Chelsea, I have to say. I think that she has been decent in bursts at Chelsea, but she's never been consistent.
Yeah.
I think, and the allure of the NWSL, I think, will be what she's looking for now. I think Guro Reiten will probably move on. As much as I love Reiten, I think her time at the club is up.
Yeah.
And I think Carnegie could move on as well if Chelsea bring in a winger either this window or looking ahead to the summer. So I don't see any of those staying. And so suddenly then there is a lot more space in the squad because then you've got Thompson and James who will be the left wingers. You have got, I mean, even Carnegie could still stay as a right winger. You've got Baltimore who I think could play as a left winger, but obviously Thompson can play on the right wing as well. But in that attack midfield position, you have James, you'll have Captain. James will play a bit on the left. James, Captain, and Hamano, and I think that will be enough for Chelsea. But I think for the next few months though, they've got Maika who can play in the 10, they've got Rice who can play in the 10. They've got enough cover in there. I think the fact they're loaning her out actually shows that Bonpastor wants what's best for Hamano rather than necessarily what's best for Chelsea. So yeah, I think it's clear that Bonpastor rates Hamano, the fact that she's played some big games this season. She started the opening game of the season against Man City over Guro Reiten, over Joanna Rytting-Carner-Reid, over Kat Macaro. I think that shows a lot about how highly rated she is. So I'm not concerned about that. I think Hamano's a really talented footballer. I think Bonpastor recognises that. Yeah. I think Bonpastor recognises, though, that she'll gain a lot more from spending the next 5 months on loan at Tottenham, playing a fairly decent amount of minutes, than she will sitting on the bench at Chelsea and not really getting those opportunities. So I think it makes sense. I think the timings will fit together nicely. I think she'll come back in the summer and be a really crucial player for Chelsea. So I'm not too concerned about that one. Let's get into audience questions then. Do we have something ready for the bottom of the screen? Lovely stuff. Let's get into audience questions. We want to hear from you guys. Any questions you've got about transfer rumours you may have seen, or transfers that you would like to see, or teams that you think need a position? Let's get into those discussions now. We've had a few already in this stream, so just rolling back a few moments. We had Ahoy ask, how serious are the rumours about Nusken to Bayern Munich? It's something we haven't really touched on. This is a WSL transfer show. We did see, obviously it does involve a WSL club with Nusken. We did see in the week, it was announced that Bayern Munich, or at least it was rumoured that Bayern Munich are looking at defensive midfield cover. They've only got 2 fit players there. It's Zadrazil and Zadrazil with ACL, sorry, and Urban. Also, they've only got Stanway and Caruso. And so they need defensive midfield cover. They're looking at Chelsea's Sjokke Nusken and Eintracht Frankfurt's Elisa Sens. Now, neither of those are cover players. For me, they are both. It's a clear indication that Bayern are recognising that Stanway's moving on in the summer, and they want that sort of star replacement. I think that they can sign both. I don't think Nusken's an easy one to do in January. I think that Chelsea will be very happy with the composition of their midfield right now, and I don't think they want to upset that. Nusken agreed a new contract in October. I don't think, and that's through to 2027. I don't think Chelsea will be keen to move her on too quickly. I think it would be expected that Nusken could move on in the summer if there is that interest. Apparently, she's open to moving. It all depends on what happens. If Chelsea go and win the Champions League, she will either then decide to that she's won everything she can at Chelsea, going to go move to my home country and enjoy that sort of experience. She may not win the Champions League and decide that she wants to move on to something new and try and win it at Bayern. She may win the Champions League and decide that means she then wants to stay at Chelsea. So much can happen over the next sort of few months. But I think what won't happen in January is Sjokke Nusken leaves Chelsea. I just don't see that happening. I think Chelsea, if Bayern were desperate to pull it off and they threw a ridiculous amount of money on the table, of course, I think Chelsea would take that and they'd go and find a replacement. But I really don't see Nusken leaving Chelsea in this January transfer window in the midst of a title fight that they are 6 points behind City in. I don't think they want to have to go and make a key midfield signing in the midst of a Champions League battle where they will look at their squad this season and think that they have a genuine shot at winning it. I don't think they'll be keen to have to make a big squad change in the middle of the season. Yeah,
I mean, contrary to everyone's beliefs by the sounds of it, Sjokke Nusken is a big part of the Chelsea squad. She's not the kind of player that is just going to be let go.
Doesn't hate her.
Yeah, just there are people who think that. But, Nusken is a massive part of the Chelsea side. And, if Cuthbert or Walsh aren't going to be there, Nusken is that replacement. She needs to be there. Chelsea will need Nusken to stay with them to win what they want to win this season. As you say, it's definitely a summer move. It's not going to happen in January, bar some ludicrousy from Bayern Munich. So yeah, it's one of those where I think from a Chelsea point of view, wouldn't concern yourself with it at all at the moment. Nusken's not going to be going anywhere this month. It may be a question that we revisit in the summer and a rumour that picks up. I think it's more that Bayern Munich are looking for midfield players right now, and Nuskin is a player they would like at some point, but I don't think it's going to happen right now.
Yeah, I think that's the case as well. I don't see it happening. Phil says if Chelsea sell Nuskin and get Flint, I'll be fuming. I think Taylor Flint signed a new contract in October as well, through to 2028, so that would be very expensive to pull off. If that happened in the summer, I think that's a brilliant deal from Chelsea's perspective. I think I looked at Taylor Flint the other day because I've heard you raving about her, Phil, for so long, and I have some concerns over her profiling. I think that she's not good enough in possession at times, but I think she's brilliant defensively as that sort of just destroyer as a defensive midfield profile. It would offer Chelsea something they don't have at the moment, but I don't see it. I think what I would be concerned about with Taylor Flint is that her limitation in possession would be difficult to mask in the WSL. I think that she's great in the NWSL, and the league is, and I think she looks really good because the league's defensive standard is very low compared to the leagues like the WSL. But I think in the WSL, I think she could struggle because she's not brilliant coming forwards. Potentially that's down to the system, and again, it's very difficult to analyse how a player would do in a different system without taking her from that club, putting her in a different system, and then looking. So I think it would be interesting, but I would be slightly concerned over her in possession deficiencies and then adjusting to a league like the WSL, which is hugely technical. But I think she's a really good player. I love her defensive numbers. I would just be concerned over that in possession stuff. But yeah, Loka says, is Germer going to play centre back or Chelsea need a replacement for Bright? Those two things are very separate conversations, to be fair, Locus, because Germer is a left centre half, and I think that she is excellent in that role. I think that she is one of the top centre backs in the world. I have no concerns over that. I think that Villa Berman then as her backup, Chelsea's left side of defence is sorted for the next decade.
Yeah.
That they don't have to worry about now. The right side's very different. You've got Natalie Bjorn, who is WSL level, brilliant player. I really rate Natalie Bjorn. Is she Champions League winning level? I think she can be on her day. I think that she's a really reliable footballer. I've got no concerns over Bjorn. I think Bright will move on this season. I think Buchanan will become the backup centre-back. Where I would be interested if Chelsea were looking to sort of bring in a centre-back and they brought in a top right centre-half, that changes things for me because I think that makes Chelsea even stronger. But I think I'd be very happy with the centre-back profile as it is. If Kadisha Buchanan doesn't come back from the ACL injury in the way that we'd want her to, if there are concerns over her level, then maybe they look at bringing in someone else. But I think at the moment Chelsea will be very happy with their centre-back options. So the fact that Bronze will likely move to centre-back as well, I think we'll see them okay in that position. So yeah, I don't see Chelsea needing to bring in a centre-back to replace Millie Bright. I think they did that last summer by bringing in left centre-halves. Bright tended to play on the left side to Bjorn, I think, last season. We've seen more of Bright on the right side this season with Germer alongside us. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Phil says, I think it would translate to Arsenal well, not so much Chelsea. I think that's probably true. I think Arsenal need a player who is sort of strictly a defensive player in midfield. I think Chelsea... I think Arsenal are very high possession, but I think that Arsenal are slow enough in possession that it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think Chelsea would need Kira Walsh who can sort of do a lot of different jobs in that midfield, which I would be concerned about Taylor Flint being able to do. Bentley Beaver with some breaking news says, breaking, Leicester confirmed the signing of Emma Janssen on a 2.5-year contract. I'm just going to Google that to verify that and that it's not some sort of fake name. Doesn't sound like I've said anything inappropriate there, but I will just double check. But that is perfect timing because we are live. And, well, she's not a person, according to Google. She just happens to work for Housefield. I don't think that's the same one.
No.
So either that is misspelt or I have misspelt it. But so there's 2 S's. That would help.
Oh.
So apparently Leicester with another signing then. And it's not someone in the WSL, which is a bit of a surprise.
I'll say that's very interesting. But this is what I love about the WSL.
To hammer you forward, another Swede to the WSL. Not seeing anything yet about her joining Leicester.
There was one there. There was a picture there of her in a Leicester scarf. That's definitely happened.
Let's have a look. I don't see a Leicester scarf. BBC Sport Leicester. Here we go. Calling her a midfielder. Wikipedia calls her a forward. Not 100% sure. Have to say, it's difficult to do this on the fly when you've got to learn about a player who you don't know much about yet. But they have signed a player. Apparently she plays for Rosengard, not Hammarby. According to BBC Sport Leicester, according to Wikipedia, she plays for Hammarby. Go figure. 29 years old, though, so slightly older player, but someone who can come in. I imagine if she is a midfielder or forward, that is exactly what Leicester needs, is just footballers. So I think that's a good sign of all accounts for Leicester, but I can't say too much because I don't know her. I've just heard of her.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I didn't even know she existed until 2 minutes ago. But yeah, it's as you say, it's players for Leicester. They need players. She's clearly not a terrible player. We know a lot of players have come out of Sweden and have looked very tidy. But yeah, again, it's one of those where we'll have to kind of find out more about her and then look at it. Unfortunately, we aren't Sky Sports. We don't have 15 people sat over there who are now scrolling through and researching all the stats about her.
That would be good if we did.
Great.
Yeah, if anyone wants that job, it's going. But we don't pay very well.
So,
yeah, very true. As Sophia says, Chelsea need a left back. Baltimore is not a left back. I think in Chelsea's system, she absolutely is. I think when you think about how Chelsea she either plays as a left wing back or Chelsea play a back four, but the left back pushes really hard the field and operates as a left winger. You would struggle to find many players who can do that who are naturally left back. Yes, if they bought Sarkina Karchawi, she can do that role. And that would be a fantastic signing, thinking about it right now. But I think, short of doing that and bringing in a 29-year-old on a huge wage, which I don't see Chelsea doing, but you never know, I think I don't see many left-backs who are attainable who could do that. Ona Battier is up for contract in the summer. If Chelsea did that, brilliant. Do I see it happening? I think if she's going anywhere, it would make sense. We know she's got a great relationship with Lucy Bronze and a dog, I think. And that is always helpful.
They're the key stats when deciding transfers.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can talk about how Ona Battier is the best fullback in the world. Yeah, sure. She can play on either side, and she's a top talent. And I think if Chelsea were looking at left back and come in and make them incredible, Ona Battier is that player. Whether or not it happens is a different question. But yeah, I think that would be a top signing for Chelsea. I think outside of that, though, I don't really see who they bring in. And I don't really see who does that role to the level that Chelsea need in terms of being able to be sort of a left winger in possession, a left back out of possession. Baltimore's done that really well, and I don't have any concerns. I don't look at Baltimore's defensive game and go, well, that's where it's all going wrong for Chelsea.
Yeah.
I don't think it has all gone wrong for Chelsea this season. They have been rather unfortunate in games. I don't think defence has been an issue too much for Chelsea. I do think they need a right centre half. In terms of they need to stop playing really bright right centre half all the time. But I think with Buchanan and Bjorn, with Bjorn and Buchanan coming back, I think they'll be okay. Obviously, Bjorn's also picked up an injury recently, so that has left them a little short in that position. But yeah, I think Chelsea will be absolutely fine. I think it will just be if they signed Ona Battier left back, then it's sorted. But outside of that, I'm not too worried about that left back position. They've got Chloe Sawi coming through, who I think looks a top talent, so that's exciting. But I don't think there's many left backs out there who would do a better job in the role that Chelsea use. As Sondy Baltimore. If they signed Ona Battier, of course, that role would probably change. It doesn't need to, because Ona Battier is excellent. But yeah, in terms of attainable players, there aren't really any. Of course, Esme Brooks would be brilliant in that role. Not going to happen. Yeah. So that's the thing for Chelsea. I think Baltimore's perfect though for what they want from a left back. But yeah, we'll see what happens in that position. Andre Tomolov says, hi, welcome to the stream. Ragnara says, are there any clubs in the WSL looking at Lauren Davidson at SK Brann in Norway? Fantastic player in my eyes. I haven't heard of anyone looking at Davidson, have to say. Not heard any rumours on that one. I can't say I've watched loads of Brann outside of analysing Signa Gamset, so can't speak too much on it, but I think... I know the name, Lauren Davidson, centre half, I believe. I think would be a good player for most WSL sides. Sort of bottom half of the table, getting into the top half of the table potentially. If Tottenham are looking at centre backs who, one, Martin Ho is familiar with, and two, could play that system, I don't think they would go wrong with her. So that could be an option. But outside of that, I don't know where she would go. But she could join the WSL if I haven't had any rumours though. PBJ says, do you think Smilla Holmberg will get consistent playing time over Emily Fox? I don't think it'll be over Emily Fox. I think Renee Slagers would be foolish not to rotate the two. I don't think they'd have made the transfer if they had no intention of playing. I think it's very different to Jenna Nicewanger. You look at Taylor Hines, she's come in and she's rotated a lot. You look at all the signs made in the summer, in actual fact, Kelly has been a great rotation option. and has got enough minutes for the level that she is. I think Olivia Smith has played more than enough, or has played a fair amount of minutes. As much as there's Arsenal fans who say she should play every minute, she will just get injured. So I think she's done an okay job of rotating the players that she wants there. I think that'll be the case with Holmberg as well. I think she's a very top talent.
Yeah.
I think that's recognised by Arsenal, and I don't have any concerns really that she won't get enough minutes. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think she will get. I think she'll rotate nicely. She'll play cup games. She'll play the weaker games in the WSL, and that will give Fox more rest and be stronger then in those big Champions League matches, big WSL fixtures, and that's exactly where Arsenal want to use Emily Fox. So. Yeah, I think it's a position they needed covering, and I think she will offer that. So, that. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to put them in as we are rounding up. But it's been a very exciting start to the January transfer window. Not heard much out of Chelsea and City yet. I think that will come later in the window. They'll be weighing up their options throughout January. We've not had anything really at Arsenal apart from obviously Smilla Holmberg today and the rumour about Georgia Stanway, but no signings that we didn't know about a few months ago yet. So. It'll be interesting to see if they do anything in the window. We've not really heard much from Brighton or Aston Villa. We know Brighton are interested in a striker. I don't think Aston Villa really need to do anything at the moment, given that their squad is pretty strong. But until they move players on, they don't really have squad space anyway. So I think it's been interesting. But a lot of action at the bottom end of the table. Nothing from Everton yet, but they could suddenly sign Kelly Gargo the second and Martina Fernandez the second, and just do what they did last January transfer window.
Yeah, I think that because Tottenham have confirmed all their signings in the last 2 or 3 days, the rumours ran out of rumours. Once that gets spinning again,
everyone else is. I think it should kick everyone else into gear.
Yeah,
Tottenham have already done all their transfer business, and it's the 5th of Jan.
Everton have been really asleep. That's an interesting one. I wonder if they're just trying to go so under the radar that everyone forgets they've got Kelly Gargo and just doesn't sign her.
Maybe, but they spent so much last January, and they spent even more in the summer.
Maybe they do, yeah.
Is there that investment there? They've just moved to Goodison Park. That's been a huge investment as well. It would depend. I think the squad's there. The problem is it's been so weirdly assembled. A bit like London City, who everyone's spoken about. They've not done anything yet this window. There was a question about them asking how can London City actually sign anyone? Their squad has too many footballers, which is very true. They have 4 goalkeepers to the point where one has become a co-commentator. So I think that they have to sell before they can buy.
Yeah, I think it's one of those London City where Adam Estre's probably just turned up and gone, he's going to need to spend a few days getting his head round the squad, who he's got in what position and what qualities they offer, because that is going to take a big sort out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of that shift now in how they're going to look to play, that will be interesting. I don't know why they've got 3 left backs. I don't know why they've got 1 right back. There's lots of questions around that squad. I think they'll move players on though. I think players like Keris Brown, who haven't been given opportunity, Maddie Wild, even players like Taya Goldie, I wouldn't be surprised if she only joined 6 months ago, but she hasn't played. I think she's got like 20 minutes in the WSL this season. That's not good enough for a player of that quality. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, especially with a lot of clubs in the bottom half of the table looking for centre halves, I wouldn't be surprised if she was looking for a move away. Danielle Van Donk hasn't played, but that's fine. That's just money from Michelle Kang, and she's registered. But we'll see what happens. They'll lose a lot. I think Jacobson will probably go this window. I think Aslani will move on in the summer. Outside of that, I think she'll probably retire in the summer. Actually, outside of that, I don't really see what they do. But they've got to move players on and bring players in that Maestra likes. It's another window where they've got a lot to do. The problem is in the summer they had at the start of the summer they'd sold or lost everything, so they had space to sort of improve their squad. Now, where is the space? They've bought so many footballers in the summer. Just too many in my opinion. Ahoy asked, after the amazing season from Schroeder, with 30 goals, 12 assists, she'll be a promising prospect. Many teams will keep an eye on her. Will she be an option for a WSL team? It depends where. I don't see United signing a striker right now. I think with Mallard as an option, I think Kira Barry's likely to leave anyway. She's not going to get a look in. But they've got Turner and Schuler as their starting 2 or competing 2. I don't see an option there. I don't see Arsenal doing it with Blacksenius, Russo, and Adjumang. Even if they were going to loan out Adjumang, I think they'll keep Russo as a striker. If they were to move Russo deeper, I think they'll keep Adjumang. So I don't see them having an option there to bring in Felicia Schroeder. I don't see them wanting to spend that much either in that position, given they've got Russo, who's sort of their striker for the next while, and they've got Adjamang, who'll be their striker after Russo. I think City will make a lot of sense. Whether or not they do it is another question. Chelsea love signing really good footballers, so I wouldn't put it out of the question.
Yeah.
Especially if Sam Kerr was to leave in the summer. I don't think Sam Kerr will leave in the summer, but if she was, that is somewhere where I think we could see that happen. But it depends on so many different factors. Do Barcelona have the money? Probably not. Could they find the money? Probably. Would Leon do it, despite the fact they've already got 3 world-class strikers? Probably. So it's difficult to say. I'd love to see her in the WSL. I'd love to see her at Chelsea, but Chelsea have enough strikers. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Sir Brastia says, Jeff Fout on loan to Liverpool. Wonder if she'll be a starter. Blackstone to Tottenham is exciting. She's one of the best players in the Damsel Vescan this season. Yeah, Fout to Liverpool would be fascinating if it does happen. I don't see it happening. She's just signed a new contract, and as much as it would be a great addition for Liverpool, I don't know why. Is it Herken she's at? I don't know why they'd let her leave. I think that Liverpool can get a good goalkeeper from other areas as well. So,
yeah.
Phil says Wolfsburg or Frankfurt might be the options. What for Schroeder? That'd be fantastic if either of them pulled it off. Potentially, we could see Is Pop's contract up at the end of the season? I think it is.
I have no idea.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I can Google, but I think Pop's contract is up at the end of the season. So that could be potentially a move if Wolfsburg are interested there. Let's have a gander. I don't know why that bar is blocking what I'm trying to do, but there we go. But we'll find out in just a moment whether or not she's got a contract or not, which I can't do without my space bar. So we've done that. She may have a contract, she may not. We don't know. But yeah, I think she's Schroeder's a fantastic footballer. Wherever she goes, she's going to be brilliant. As a Chelsea fan, I selfishly want her at Chelsea. If she was going to go to the WSL today, I think she'd go to Man City. But maybe she'd join a club lower in the league and just be ridiculously good for them.
Yeah.
That'd be a good sign for Liverpool. They can just play Olsen and Schroeder as the front two and not have to worry about creating chances because they'll just score half chances. But yeah, I think that rounds up today's show. So that is everything for the women's football transfer show. Another week of rumours, of done deals, of chaos kicking off. Hopefully this time next week we'll see even more happen. Mark Howard's just shouting Buchanan at me. So now I want to Google what's happened there, whether that's just a scream or whether that has actually happened. Phil says Pop's probably been on a rolling contract for a decade at least. Yeah, true. I'm now finding out if anything has happened to Khadijah Buchanan because I'm slightly worried by Mark Howard screaming Khadijah Buchanan at me. But we'll find out by searching her name. Doesn't seem like there's any breaking news. So that is fine. But yeah, so if anything has happened to Buchanan, apologies there. Michael Cross, are United done with signing more players in transfer window? No, we have heard from Mr. Skinner himself that he wants a winger, and I think they'll also look at a central midfielder. That would be my expectation for Manchester United. Even if it's a loan in midfield, that would strengthen them greatly, or potentially a pre-contract for Georgia Stanway could be fun. But they definitely need a winger with Bizet out, and with Jaycee unlikely to come back into the side, I have to say, given her strained relationship, to put it nicely, with Skinner. I don't see that happening, so I think they need a winger. Outside of that, though, that is everything for today's show. We're back next week, hopefully, with more rumours, some more confirmed deals, and hopefully some movement at the top. Nothing yet from City or Chelsea in terms of incoming. So we'll see what happens in the next week. In the meantime, though, the WSL is back this weekend. We'll be live for 3 games across the weekend. We'll start on Saturday with a big one. Arsenal coming back to action to face Manchester United. Going to be one hell of a game. We've got a double header coming your way on Sunday as well, so join us for all of that. Other than that, 2 videos this week, one going out on Wednesday. Look out for that. That's going to be on Denise O'Sullivan going to Liverpool, and on Friday we've got something that might be about Arsenal, so look out for that on Friday. That there is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.